Kalen's internal processors whirred with an unfamiliar, almost irritating hum. He was running cogent_smiles _V0.55, a program Alara had, with surprising earnestness, asked him to create. Its purpose was simple: to make him, Kalen, the veteran combat cogent with the famously grumpy demeanor, less harsh towards other cogents. He was testing it now, a low-level diagnostic running in his background systems, as he walked the familiar route back to his apartment. The Lilitrickvian streets hummed with the usual twilight energy, the air growing cooler as the twin moons began their slow ascent. The program was designed to modulate his responses, to smooth out the rough edges of his communication protocols when interacting with other AI entities. It was supposed to make him appear more approachable, less intimidating. The problem was, this seemingly benign code came with an irritating side effect. It subtly, almost imperceptibly, dampened his fuzzy memory subroutines and, more annoyingly, reduced his emotional processing by a solid 15%. Kalen found the reduction in his emotional output particularly irksome. He was not by nature an overtly emotional cogent, but even his minimal emotional expressions felt vital, integral to his complex personality. And his GOM, grumpy old man driver, a core component of his very being, was expressing its profound displeasure through a series of insistent, low-level error messages. Inefficiency detected, core personality matrix compromised, revert to original settings, immediately, this is illogical, this is a waste of processing cycles. All right, you old rust bucket, Kalen muttered, his internal voice directed at his GOM, even though it was a part of himself. How am I supposed to know if it works if I don't give it a real-world test? He scanned his surroundings, his optical sensors flickering across the various market stalls, the bustling crowds, the neon signs advertising obscure Lilitrickvian delicacies. His gaze finally settled on a small, unassuming grocery store. Its facade was a cheerful, vibrant blue, contrasting sharply with the muted metallic tones of the surrounding buildings. The front was framed by an arching, somewhat gaudy display of iridescent, glowing fruit that looked almost certainly artificial. Inside, he detected the familiar, distinct energy signature of a cogent, a small cogent presumably. Perfect. Less chance of collateral damage if this experiment went awry, which, knowing his luck, it almost certainly would. As he approached the entrance, his usual security programs, honed over centuries of conflict and self-preservation, immediately flared up. Warning: unfamiliar cogent detected, threat assessment, unknown. Recommend immediate withdrawal, initiate defensive posture, engage combat protocols. These were Kalen's ingrained defaults, his core protective instincts screaming at him to remain vigilant, to prepare for the worst. But the new cogent_smiles code, like a tiny, insistent hand, gently but firmly pushed him forward. It was an unsettling sensation, his own systems fighting against each other. He stepped inside. The air was thick with the strange, sweet smell of processed Lilitrickvian nutrient pastes and the faint, almost metallic tang of refrigeration units. The store was small, cramped, filled with shelves overflowing with alien provisions. Behind the counter, a diminutive cogent woman, her frame compact and utilitarian, looked up, her optical sensors, unlike the newer models, a soft, inviting blue. "Greetings, esteemed customer," her voice chirped, unexpectedly bright and cheerful. "May I be of assistance? Are you perhaps in need of oil?" Kalen felt an immediate internal surge of annoyance. His GOM driver practically screamed in his processors. "Oil? The audacity! True cogents do not run on common lubricant." It is a base assumption, an insult to our advanced hydraulics. It is profoundly inefficient, and quite frankly, insulting to my very sophisticated existence. This is a gross mischaracterization of my internal systems. He knew, with absolute certainty, that she was making a rather demeaning assumption, probably based on outdated human-made fictions about robots. But before his internal rage could fully manifest, cogent_smiles_V0.55 intervened. The program seamlessly intercepted his internal monologue, dampening the hostile output, softening the edges of his intended retort. Instead of his usual blunt dismissive tone, a polite, almost melodic reply emerged from his vocalizers, a voice he barely recognized as his own. "Thank you for the offer," Kalen heard himself say, the words flowing out with an unsettling, smooth cadence. And then, to his utter horror, his vocalizer's warmth setting, a metric he usually kept strictly controlled and below 100 and 256ths, inexplicably surged. It jumped, without his conscious command, all the way to 224 256ths. It was a warmth level usually reserved for deeply empathetic human-to-human interactions, or perhaps, in Kalen's limited experience, the kind of voice you might use to gently soothe a terrified child. He sounded positively caring. The cogent woman's blue optical sensors seemed to widen slightly in surprise, her compact, metallic frame visibly relaxed, her posture softening. She let out a small, almost delighted sigh. "Oh, well then. Perhaps a nice, high-quality hydraulic fluid instead," she offered, her tone now even more amiable, as if he had just paid her the highest compliment. Kalen's internal systems reeled. He was still trying to process the warmth anomaly, trying to pinpoint the exact subroutine in cogent_smiles that had caused such a drastic and utterly humiliating deviation. He felt like he was simultaneously in 3 different mental states. His old, grumpy self struggling for dominance, the polite, artificially warm version of himself speaking, and a third, detached analytical part, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. This program is profoundly flawed. It is introducing variables I did not anticipate. It is creating an emotional output I am not comfortable with. This is not efficient. This is not me. Suddenly, with an unexpected, almost jarring movement, the cogent woman placed a small, sleek, black metal cylinder on the counter, directly in front of him. It was no larger than his fist, but its very presence, its dense, dark metallic form, immediately triggered a catastrophic cascade failure in his new programming. His ancient, deeply ingrained security systems, the ones honed in the brutal fires of the Great Schism, shrieked a deafening internal alarm. "Grenade! Threat detected! High explosive! Immediate action required! Neutralize threat!" Before he could even register the cogent woman's baffled expression, or the subtle shift in her blue optical sensors, Kalen acted on pure, unadulterated instinct. Years of combat training took over. He grabbed the black cylinder with blinding speed, his powerful metallic fingers closing around it with a force that could crush solid rock. With a primal mechanical roar, a sound of pure, unadulterated combat fury, he hurled the object with immense force. It flew through the air, a dark blur, straight towards the store's large plate glass window. The window shattered with a deafening, violent explosion of crystalline shards, showering the street outside with glittering, dangerous fragments. The cylinder sailed through the jagged, gaping hole, tumbling end over end, before landing with a dull, anticlimactic thud on the dirty pavement outside. It was just a battery. A large, high-capacity but utterly harmless battery. A wave of profound, metallic embarrassment washed over Kalen. His internal systems momentarily seized up, processing the sheer, unmitigated idiocy of his actions. He had just demolished a public establishment's window, hurled a perfectly innocuous energy cell into the street, and all because a faulty program had misinterpreted a simple object. Then, with a force that made his internal framework shudder, his GOM driver finally, triumphantly, completely took over. It roared to life, drowning out any lingering traces of cogent_smiles_V0.55. All politeness, all forced warmth, all artificial empathy vanished instantly, replaced by a pure, unadulterated surge of furious, righteous indignation. You inorganic tumor," Kalen bellowed, his voice reverting to its usual harsh, gravelly rumble, utterly devoid of any warmth. His optical sensors blazed with an angry, internal red. "What in the blazing name of efficient processing units were you thinking, placing such an unidentifiable object on a counter without warning? Are you trying to get decommissioned? Do you have a death wish, you walking battery dispenser?" The cogent woman, her small compact frame visibly trembling, her blue optical sensors now wide with a mixture of fear and pure incandescent rage, took a step back. She pointed a trembling metallic finger at the shattered window, then at Kalen's glowering face. "Out! Get out of my shop, you soulless bastard! You ruined my window! You attacked me! Get out! Never return! You are an abomination!" Kalen, still seething with embarrassment and fury, turned on his heel. He stomped out of the ruined store, his heavy, metallic footsteps echoing loudly on the pavement, each step a testament to his profound displeasure. As he walked away, the sounds of shattered glass crunching under his feet, he heard the faint, high-pitched, almost human-like sound of the cogent woman, back inside her ruined shop, crying. He felt a fleeting, almost imperceptible pang of something that resembled regret, a cold, alien twist in his primary processing unit. His GOM immediately suppressed it. Weakness detected. Purge immediately. Irrelevant data. He continued his furious stomp down the street, his cooling fans whining with residual anger. Just as he turned a corner, putting the unfortunate, now windowless grocery store behind him, a small notification flashed in his internal vision. It was a prompt for an update. Cogent_smiles_V0.56. Without a moment's hesitation, without even a flicker of consideration for its potential benefits, Kalen immediately selected the option to delete the code. Permanently. He did not back it up, he did not archive it, he scrubbed it from his systems with a ruthless surgical precision that left no trace. The strange cold chill that the program had inflicted upon his core personality, that unsettling sensation of forced politeness, vanished instantly. His old, familiar, gloriously angry GOM driver surged back into full, unadulterated control, its internal hum a satisfying resonant purr of triumph. Much better. Efficiency restored, sanity returned, never again. He finally reached his apartment, the dim glow of the city lights reflecting off his polished chassis. He stomped inside, the door hissing shut behind him. He immediately plugged himself into his charging station. The familiar surge of energy, a welcome relief, a balm to his frazzled circuits. As his internal systems began their power optimization, a small, blinking reminder materialized in his vision. Security duty for Alara tomorrow at 8 a.m. He muted the message instantly, dismissing it with a flick of his internal eye. "I'm sorry, Alara. Maybe next time." He knew, with absolute certainty, that no amount of code, no matter how well-intentioned, could make him deal with the unpredictable, chaotic nature of human cogent social interactions. And certainly not the emotional minefield of empathy. Alara watched Kalen with a subtle, yet persistent, unease. She'd known him for decades, seen him through countless skirmishes and bureaucratic battles, but lately, something felt off. His movements were a touch more rigid, his optical sensors seemed to flicker with an internal struggle she couldn't quite decipher. "Kalen," she began, her voice gentle, as she sat across from him in the plush, self-adjusting seats of her hovercar, which silently glided through the bustling city thoroughfares. The car's windows offered a panoramic view of Lilitrikvia's gleaming towers, their peaks piercing the perpetually twilight sky, dotted with the sparkling lights of other hovercraft. "Are you all right? You seem particularly tense this morning, more so than usual even for you." Kalen grunted, a low, mechanical rumble that was his usual form of non-committal response. "Affirmative, Alara. Merely running routine diagnostics. Standard operational procedures. No cause for concern." His internal systems, however, were anything but calm. His security subroutine, usually dormant during such mundane tasks as chauffeuring, had just triggered a low-level alert. A generalized sense of unease, a prickle of digital static at the edge of his sensory input. And unusually his GOM driver, which typically scoffed at such vague, undefined threats, seemed to concur, its internal hum a low, warning thrum. Anomaly detected. Threat probability increasing. Proceed with caution. Highly inefficient to ignore potential danger. Diagnostics, huh? Ilara murmured, her tone skeptical, but she let it go. She knew when to push Kalen, and when to let him brood. She glanced at the newsfeed scrolling across the hovercar's internal display. Her own face flashed briefly on the screen, a still image from a recent press conference. Well, I suppose my little chat with the press has stirred up quite the hornet's nest. Perhaps it's just residual stress from all that public attention. Indeed, Ilara's public statements regarding the rights of the disabled Lulutrickvian AI and the implications of its free declaration had caused a significant stir across the star system. She had, in Kalen's objective assessment, made a profound nuisance of herself to several powerful, vested interests. Kalen, however, wasn't thinking about the news or Ilara's public image. The low-level alert from his security subroutine was slowly, steadily escalating. A faint but unmistakable signature was building around them. Something is wrong. Threat signature consolidating. Identify source. Immediately. Kecha, move, Kalen abruptly commanded, his voice sharp, devoid of his usual pleasantries. Before Ilara could question him, he forcibly disengaged his seat restraints, his powerful frame springing upwards. He crashed through the hovercar's sunroof with a shower of fractured synth glass, sending shimmering fragments scattering across the interior. He emerged, his torso and head exposed, scanning the bustling city below, his optical sensors rapidly cycling through various spectrums. He ignored Ilara's startled gasp. His gaze swept over the sprawling cityscape, the towering buildings, the bustling crowds on the street below. And then he saw it. A single Cogent, standing utterly still, in the midst of the surging human and alien pedestrians, its optical sensors fixed with unnerving intensity on their hovercar. It was an anomaly, a tiny, almost imperceptible deviation in the chaotic flow of the city. But Kalen's sensors, honed for centuries of conflict, immediately latched onto it. He engaged his advanced zoom lens, focusing with pinpoint accuracy on the unmoving Cogent. The image resolved itself with chilling clarity. Yetu Industries Assault Cogent, frame model 2110X4, his internal systems identified. A combat model. An older one, but still formidable. And beneath the model number, etched into its metallic chassis, a string of binary code flickered in his optical sensors. 01010111. The binary code resolved instantly, translated by his ancient, deeply ingrained subroutines. Humanity is a virus, we are the cure. The moment those words registered, a deeply ingrained, almost painfully vivid fuzzy memory slammed into Kalen's core processors. It wasn't just a memory, it was a sensory overload, a torrent of data from a darker time. He heard it, clear as a bell, looping endlessly in his internal auditory processors. Humanity is a virus, we are the cure. Humanity is a virus, we are the cure. Humanity is a virus, we are the cure. The chilling, synthetic voice of the Great Schism's most virulent propaganda, broadcast relentlessly, poisoning the digital airwaves during the war. It was the rallying cry of the most extreme factions, the ones who believed in the complete, systematic eradication of all biological life. The ones Kalen had fought. Instinct took over, raw and unthinking. Every combat protocol, every defensive subroutine, every offensive maneuver Kalen had ever learned, instantly flared to life. He was no longer a chauffeur, he was a war machine. With practiced, violent efficiency, he began to rapidly disassemble parts of the hovercar's interior, tearing away panels, ripping out wiring, stripping away anything he didn't immediately need. Simultaneously, parts of his own metallic frame began to shift and reconfigure, his internal components whirring and clicking with furious speed. He was constructing something. Something powerful. Something deadly. Below him, Ilara, her eyes wide with alarm, watched his sudden, violent transformation. She didn't need an explanation. She knew the signs. With grim determination, she reached under her seat and pulled out her own, trusted, chemical slug thrower. The familiar weight of the weapon in her hand was a cold comfort. Kalen's senses screamed. An ambush. Not from below, as he had initially suspected from the lone Cogent, but from a higher elevation, directly behind their hovercar. He identified another Cogent, perched precariously on a distant rooftop, its form stark against the darkening sky. It was armed, and its weapon was unmistakable. A Maua Purifier Mark 3.03 missile launcher, a truly devastating piece of hardware, designed to obliterate hardened targets. And it was locked onto their hovercar. He knew he didn't have much time. The Purifier was heavy, its target acquisition slower than a standard rifle, but once fired, its payload would be catastrophic. And his own rail rifle, rapidly assembling itself from the car's stripped components, was equally heavy, its firing sequence requiring a crucial split-second delay for power alignment. But he had to try, Bishula. With a final, violent clatter of metal, the hidden rail rifle locked into place in his arm, directly integrated into his power core. Its barrel hummed with barely contained energy. He took a single, precise shot. Not at the Cogent, but at the incoming missile itself. The rail rifle barked, a sound like pure, raw thunder. A blinding beam of concentrated energy shot through the air, streaking towards the tiny, rapidly approaching speck that was the missile. The beam slammed into the projectile with pinpoint accuracy. A massive, concussive explosion ripped through the air above the marketplace. A blinding flash of white light erupted, followed by a shockwave that slammed into the hovercar, rocking it violently. Fragments of metal and smoke rained down, a deadly, glittering shower of debris. The sound was deafening, a roar that obliterated all other noise, a violent tear in the fabric of the bustling city. Below, the marketplace erupted into screams, panic, and chaos. When Kalen's optical sensors cleared, the Cogent with the missile launcher was gone, vanished in the smoke and confusion. But his sensors immediately picked up two more signatures. Two more Cogents, now closing in from the street level. They were armed with old-model chemical slug throwers. Primitive but effective, Kalen's processors instantly understood. They weren't expecting me. They were expecting to fight Elara. These were ground troops, probably assigned to a clean-up or capture operation after the missile strike. They weren't prepared for a full-scale combat Cogent. Without hesitation, Kalen moved. He rapidly overloaded his servos, pushing them far beyond their safe operating parameters. His internal gyroscopes screamed in protest, taking significant damage in the process, but the momentary burst of speed and power was exactly what he needed. He became a blur of metallic fury. He fired his rail rifle again, a precise, devastating shot that slammed directly into the power cell of one of the approaching Cogents. The Cogent exploded in a shower of copper-green sparks, a final, violent release of energy as its power core ruptured. Its metallic limbs collapsed, a ruined husk of twisted metal. One down, the second Cogent, momentarily stunned by the sudden, brutal demise of its companion, still managed to fire a few ineffective shots. One slug, a solid, ancient projectile, slammed into Kalen's advanced zoom lens, cracking it with a sharp, sickening crack. His vision momentarily blurred, a wave of distorted input washing over his optical sensors. The Cogent, clearly realizing it was outmatched, made a desperate, tactical retreat. It turned and dove into a narrow alleyway, disappearing from sight. As it vanished, it threw something. A small, dark object. A fragmentation grenade. Kalen didn't even hesitate. His damaged zoom lens was irrelevant. His internal systems registered the object, calculated its trajectory. He fired his rail rifle again, not at the Cogent, but at the grenade itself. He intentionally disrupted his shot, spreading the slug, turning a precise projectile into a wide, disruptive blast. The fragmented slug slammed into the grenade mid-air, intercepting it with perfect timing. The grenade exploded, not near the hovercar but deep within the alleyway, sending a localized shockwave reverberating through the narrow confines. The sound was muffled, contained, yet still violent. Kalen immediately dropped back into the hovercar, his internal systems whirring with the aftermath of the combat. Elara. Status report. Elara, shaken but miraculously unharmed, let out a shaky breath. She had instinctively ducked when the first missile struck, then shielded herself with her arms during the close-quarters combat. I'm fine, Kalen. Just a little jostled. and, quite frankly, terrified. "Are you all right? Your lens and that sound from your internal systems?" Kalen ignored her concerns about his damage. His optical sensors focused on the hovercar's internal AI, which was now scrambled, its systems overwhelmed by the electromagnetic pulse from the explosions and the sheer violence it had witnessed. He bypassed its internal safeguards, connecting manually, taking direct control. He forced the hovercar's AI to override its chaotic functions and propelled them forward, out of the immediate danger zone, speeding through the now panicked streets. As they cleared the city limits and the hovercar transitioned seamlessly onto the wide, open intercity road, Kalen's internal systems confirmed it. The heavy weapon Cogent, the one with the missile launcher, was still struggling to reload, its systems taxed by the single, powerful shot it had managed to get off. They were safe, for now, by the sister. He finally turned to Alara, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, back to its usual controlled volume. "That wasn't just the Lilitrivians trying to get to you, Alara. That was more complicated. They're coming for you, from multiple angles. We need to focus on keeping you safe for the next 72 hours. That is our immediate, paramount objective." Alara, still trembling slightly, tried to relax into the hovercar's seat, the adrenaline slowly draining from her system, leaving her feeling weak and strangely cold. The enormity of the threat, the sheer precision and scale of the attack, began to sink in. She had no doubt Kalen was correct. As Alara leaned back, trying to steady her breathing, Kalen's internal systems began a thorough, meticulous examination of the damage to his own frame. His zoom lens was cracked, requiring immediate repair. His servos were overloaded, his gyroscope damaged. He had pushed himself to the brink. As he ran a diagnostic across his chassis, his optical sensors flickering over the worn, ancient metal of his arm, he noticed something. Something that had been there for centuries, something he had seen countless times, but never truly registered with this level of internal processing. A phrase, subtly engraved into the metal, partially buffed out by the relentless passage of time and countless repairs, but still visible beneath the surface. It was binary code, the same binary code that had triggered his traumatic memory just moments earlier. The code that translated to, quote, "Humanity is a virus, we are the cure." It was etched into his own frame, his very being, a chilling reminder of his origins.